Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be making a short video about React Router and some of the functionality it can bring to your web applications. For those that don't know what React Router is, it's a library used with React that helps you handle navigation in single-page applications. This lets you create routes that show the user different components and also lets you pass through parameters that can affect the data shown in each component. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to open up VS Code. I already started a application and ran it, but to do that, what you'd want to do is use create React app if you have it installed, and give it a name. I gave it React Router. I'm not going to do this here because I already created the project. And afterwards, you're going to want to add React Router DOM so we can use it within our application. So it would just be yarn add React Router DOM, like so. And once you have those two installed, we can get started on our application. So the file you're going to be working on is going to be app.js. That's where we're going to put all our routes and handle all our components. So first of all, let's get rid of this code here. We'll keep the logo so we have something to look at. And now we're going to import some stuff from React Router DOM so we can add it to our application. So let's import browser router, and let's import it as a router so we can reference it a little bit easier. And we'll also want to import route as well as navlink. And this is all from React Router DOM. Okay, so before we can start using route or navlink, we have to have some components that we can navigate to. So first, let's create a home component. And for this component, let's just make it say, hello world. All right, so now that we have a component, we can add our first route. And let's do that under our logo. So to use a route, before we use routes, we have to wrap our component in a router. So let's do that first. All right, and now that we've done that, we can add our first route. And to do that, you type route and the path that you want the route to be. So right now we're adding our home component, which should load in the home directory. So we'll just add a slash here. And here we can also choose which component we want to show at that path. So let's choose our home component. All right, and now we can test our first route and see if it's working the way we expect it to. All right, and you can see we have our hello world here from our H1 in our home component. Okay, so let's try adding one more component and see how we can navigate back and forth between the two. So we'll just copy and paste this one. And let's call this one about. And we can add a little bit more content to this one. Okay. And now that we made our about component, we can add another route. Okay, and this one, we can access it by going to the about path. Another thing we're going to want to do is write exact for our home route. Otherwise, all routes that include this path will also show the home component. I'll leave this out just so I can show you what I'm talking about. But before we'll be able to access this component, we'll have to add some links Right now we can access it if we type it manually, but we have no way to go back and forth within the application itself. And you can see here, we can see both components because I did not add the exact property to the route component, but we can change that now. So let's type exact here. And now it only loads the component that we want at that path. So if we go back here, we can see it says hello world again. So now let's add a way to navigate, and we can do this using navlink, or we're not doing anything fancy, so let's try using link instead. All right, so now let's add a link, and this is very similar to an A tag, but instead of writing href, you write to, and then you write the path that you want to go to. So this one can be our link to going home. And then we can add some more links here. And this one will be to our about component. Okay, so now let's check that out. Oh, no, that's not how I want it to look. Let's wrap this in a div. Okay, and that should put them on the same line. Yeah, so now if we click here, it'll take us to our about component. And if we click here, it'll take us to our home component. All right, so now let's create a route where we can pass through some parameters and change the information we see in the component based on those parameters. All right, so let's go back to VS Code. And we'll create a, we'll create another component. And this one will pass through the props, or will receive the props from match. Okay, and here let's return, an H1. And here we'll put match dot params dot name, and let's just write a little blurb underneath. Okay, so match is one of the properties that you get when you use React Router, and we'll see how that works here. So first of all, we have to create one more route. And we'll call this one people. And in order to pass through a param, what you need to do is you need to type colon and the name of the parameter that you want to use. So we're going to call it name. And now we can use our people component. All right, so now if we go back to the web browser, if I go to /people/wing, I'll get this little blurb about myself. And we can put any name here. So we can put Bob. You know what? Chris is pretty cool too. Basically, any name that we pass through here will be passed through as a parameter that we can render to the page, or really any string. So we just typed some random letters. It'll appear here. This can be super useful, especially if you're working with something like a RESTful API, because you can pass something through like an ID. And you can use that ID to grab a specific object from an API and render its information. So yeah, that's everything I wanted to cover for the basics of React router. If there's anything else you guys want to know, feel free to let me know and I can make a video on it. Thanks so much for watching.